Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. So today we're going to be looking at all of my lithops plants. So this is going to be a video to show you what stages of development they are all at now, because today is the 9th of June 2021 and most lithops, if you're based in a northern hemisphere, I'm based in England, the United Kingdom, so my lithops are nearly finished shedding. I do have some that are being a little bit slower than others, depending on where they're growing. So I have some in a windowsill, and then straight ahead of me I do have some directly under my foldable grow lights here, which are doing really well since my last video about these. So this is an update really to show you how they're looking now. If I leave it much later, you won't really see the difference or the changes that I want to show you. But first, I just want to rewind back to the 23rd of March 2021. So here are some of my lithops, and this is how they looked then. And I'll show you a quick clip of each plant individually so we can compare them to how they are now in June. So back to today's video. So it's still the 9th of June 2021. So it's about 2.5 months later. So straight ahead you can see I've got 5 pots of lithops here, and they're all at different stages of development. So they're currently under the grow light here, which is approximately 6 inches away from the light source. So they've been doing really well under the grow lights. So this one here was quite a large one-headed lithops, and you can now see where it's splitting. We are now getting 2 heads as opposed to just 1. So this is the outer leaves, and these are slowly being consumed of all of their moisture content to allow for the development of these new leaves. So because these outer leaves are still soft and they've not really dried and gone hard, I can't start watering this lithops yet. Even though we're in June, I cannot give this any water because it's getting the water it needs from these outer leaves to support these new leaves that are growing here. But this seed capsule has now gone hard and dry, so this will soon be ready to pick. So these have got 2 separate plants in here, and these aren't quite finished either. And they've still got their outer leaves full of moisture and water. And the same with these ones here. So the new leaves are inside here, and these 2 have some dried up seed capsules along with these ones here. Now this one is at the same stage, so it's just popping out of its old leaves. So this one will soon be able to have some water, because I can quite clearly see the whole head emerged here. Most of it is come out of this one here. This one's just got a little bit more to go, but once this starts to dry a bit and start to look a bit more withered, then these can have some water too. Now I did have another lithops, because this was one I got from the garden centre, and then I bought another one which was a single head. That one shedded, but the new one that came out was absolutely tiny, and it just disintegrated. So that just literally just disappeared in the pots, and I was left with nothing. So what caused that, I don't know, but sometimes you will have a plant that just does that and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's been treated exactly the same as all of the others here. That one just didn't survive. So this was that really pretty cluster of 5 heads here. So each one that's emerged has been the same, so we've not got any double heads. So we've still got the same amount of heads as before. So these have done really well, and the outer skins are really quite papery and dry. So I gave this one some water yesterday, because when they're at this stage and the outer skins are quite substantially consumed and dry, even though you can still see them attached like this, it doesn't hurt to give your lithops just a small drink of water, because what this does is it encourages these new leaves to drink that water, and then they will ever so slightly swell, which then also helps them to slightly burst out of these older skins a bit quicker. Now don't overwater, just give it a very light water, and that will encourage it to just burst out a little bit more. So you can see on the other side of the plant where I've just taken it out now, these ones have done really well. So you can see how loose this skin is now. So it didn't hurt to give this one some water. And then the seed capsules again on this one are quite dry and crispy. And I'll probably try and remove those soon because they are quite dried up now. So this one's looking slightly smaller than it did before, but this does happen to lithops, where you'll start off with a larger plant and then the new leaves that come can be smaller than before. And then this is the last one on the shelf under the grow light. So that's in a similar position to this one here. So it's a bit slow with them shedding its leaves. So overall, with all of the lithops you can see here, I'm quite pleased with how they're developing, considering I've not had them very long, and when I got them, obviously they were repotted and put into a new, perhaps different type of soil mix, which they've had to adjust to. So yeah, I think they've done really well. And I think in the next couple of weeks or so, these skins will be a lot drier and they can have a nice drink. Right, so this is my northwest facing window. So this gets afternoon sun later on in the day, late afternoon, and only during this time of year. All other times of year, the sun passes over the house and sets before any of the sunlight comes through the window. So it's really annoying that it's only this time of the year that I do get a little bit of sunshine. So these lithops always do well in this side of the house, despite the amount of sunlight. And if anything, that late afternoon sun is okay because they're not being scorched if they were in a south window. So that's quite good for their health. So this one here is a Lithops acampi, and this one always tends to be slow to shed its leaves every year, but it does shed them every year. So it's only been recently that it started to shed, but once it gets going, it tends to move quite quickly. Okay, so this one, I'm always happy about this one. So I've had this since September 2019. So this was one I had to rescue from my greenhouse. And it was always delayed with its shedding, but look how well it's doing this year. Really happy with this. So this year, I'm going to be a bit more confident with this one now. And these are from last year, so I'm going to take off these old ones. Now I think this is recovered enough to move these out of the way so these new leaves can have a better chance of pushing down a lot further. So I'm going to have to get those off of there with some scissors. And I was just leaving them on there from before because it was still in its recovery mode, but it looks to be really healthy now. You can see here now this one actually shedded quite fast. So we've got a lot of dry skin here. So I gave this some water yesterday, And then today I'm going to trim off these old, really dried up leaves here with some scissors. Okay, so what I'm really excited about to show you is my Lithops seedlings. Well, I call them seedlings, but they aren't really seedlings anymore. So these are nearly 2 years old now since my last update on these, and they're doing so well. So let's get them out. So just quickly, just for scale, you can see they're in approximately a 5.5 to nearly a 6 centimetre pot here. So these have been grown by seed by me from seeds off of my own plant. So they're nearly 2 years old now. So my last video update of these was when they were 1.5 years old. So I think it's been about another 6 months since that video. So they're nearly 2 years old. So they're still in the same pot as you saw them in the previous video. And they're doing really well, and they've just completed another shedding phase. So all of them have had a complete shedding phase with no issues whatsoever. So there you can see some of the dried skins. So because they're quite young, when they shed, the outer leaves tend to go very, very thin, and these are very easy to remove once they've gone really dry. Because they've completed their shedding phase, yesterday the surface of their actual leaves, or the surface of their windows, which are the top of the plant, they were looking slightly wrinkled. So I knew that they needed some water. Now they're looking very plump again. So I've had absolutely no issues with these little lithops, and I'm so happy that they are all still alive, doing really well, and in the same soil mix. I haven't repotted them or anything. I think most of these decorational stones are still in the same position as before. So the only difference I've done is I've recently put them under my grow lights, because in the window they weren't really getting enough light. Now they're slightly bigger and they're basically 2 years old. I think they can now withstand these grow lights. So they've been up here maybe a couple of weeks or so, and I've seen no burning or anything like that, and they seem to be doing really well. Okay, so you can just see right there at the back, that's where they sit in comparison to the grow lights. So I've not got them right under, it's just to get them used to the light. So we're just upstairs now, and we have my lithops here. So this faces northwest as well, like downstairs. So this window receives the sunlight a bit quicker than the downstairs window. So in the late afternoon it gets really hot and warm up here. So the lithops really like that environment. And believe it or not, I still haven't repotted these since when I very first bought them. So these really need doing. So I'm going to perhaps try and do that this year. Even though I tend to try and repot my plants before May, I don't think it will hurt too much with these because they are young plants. So this is the other pot here. And then the third one there. So you might remember this one here. That was a double head, and now it's shedding again. So they're all in the shedding phase. They're looking a little bit etiolated, but that's because they are in a substrate where it's just mainly those clay pebbles. So I don't really have the substrate up high enough. And they have been in these pots a long time now. But the main thing is they are all shedding really nicely. This one looks like there might be another head just in there developing. So this could be a two-headed plant, so that's fantastic. So here on the left, this one always sheds way before the lithops on the right hand side. Now the one on the right was quite delayed this year. It was in a different pot. So what I've done is I've already repotted it into this smaller size pot to match the same size as the one on the left. Now, when I repotted this one on the right, I left it a few days and then I gave it a very light watering just to try and encourage the root growth on it, because the root on it was rather small as well. So even so, it has been shedding every year. So hopefully this one should start shedding soon. But this one on the left hand side has already completed its shedding. You can see just slightly around the edges where the old leaves have gone down the sides of the plant. Because I've had these quite a long time, I'm quite used to looking after these ones, and I know when it's safe to water these. So when it's at this stage, and this one is Lithops charismontana opalina, I know that it's safe to give it a little water because it's virtually popped right out of its old leaves. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this little update on the Lithops plants and it's helped you care for your Lithops. Perhaps yours are at the same stage as mine, or perhaps they've already completed their shedding. Maybe you have your Lithops outdoors in a greenhouse, so they're really far advanced in their shedding and you've been watering them fine with no problems already. Or maybe you're like me and you're growing your Lithops indoors under grow lights and also in the windowsill. But just remember, once your Lithops look like this, although it might be tempting to give them some water, just hold back slightly until these leaves slightly go hard and a bit crispy. Once they're more advanced like this and you can really see the new head and it's dried and withered a bit more, then I can safely give them some water. And as I showed you upstairs, because I've had those ones for quite a long time, the longest out of all of my Lithops, so they were the first two I ever bought, and I'm so happy that I still have them today. And as I showed you on that little pale pink one, when that little skin reaches right down to the sides of it, even though it's still slightly pliable, I know it's safe to give it some water, just to encourage it to burst into some more growth. So at the moment, our Lithops are preparing to go into flower during the autumn. So that's why they've absorbed their old leaves, produced a new set of leaves, ready to flower in the autumn time. So if you're lucky, you will get some flowers in the autumn. Okay, thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't already subscribed to me, then do consider subscribing. Perhaps turn the notifications on so you won't miss when I upload a video. Do like my video, leave me a comment and share my video. Okay then, see you next time. Bye.